Spencer Matthews, Vogue told me your life truly began when you met her.
Meeting Vogue was quite life-changing for me. It really shone a light on my alcoholism at the time. She's the first person I've ever met who I wanted to change for.
You're a Guinness World Record holder.
Yeah.
You did 30 marathons in 30 days on sand.
I hope I don't sound like a dick when I say this, but I didn't even come close to breaking in the desert. It changed the way people see me. It changed the way people treat me. It's weird. From the age of about 17 to 29, I probably drank every day. Her exact words when she realized I was being serious were, "But it will kill you." And I can remember just thinking like, shit, like this is going to be horrendous.
Now, the broadcaster Spencer Matthews has made history by becoming the first man to run 30 marathons in 30 days.
There was a lot riding on it. So that first day, getting that ticked off was a huge milestone.
I said a prayer to Mike, and like 10 minutes into the run, this shooting star shot across the sky, but it was the most insane thing I'd ever seen.
First question I've got for you is designed to piss you off.
Is it?
What was it?
Is there a reason?
What's
We'll just shoot it again.
No.
I like it.
I just want to test it.
I'm a psychopath. It's not going to.
I know. Spencer Matthews, husband to Vogue Williams.
Yes.
What's
Daniel.
what's happened in life since you left Made in Chelsea?
God, lots of stuff, Dan. It's been a while. I left Made in Chelsea. Is it 10 years ago?
I don't know why you're asking me. I never watched it.
It's like 8 or 10 years ago. I think it's more like 10 years ago. Yeah, I would have left when I was 26, 27. I'm 36 now. So, I mean, all kinds of stuff. I feel like my life truly began after I left that show. As you know,
Vogue told me your life truly began when you met her.
well, yeah, I think that's probably also fair. Meeting Vogue was quite life-changing for me. It really shone a light on my alcoholism at the time. And she's the first person I've ever met who I wanted to change for, including like my own family. And I don't know if that's normal or not, but like I could see that my family were deeply disappointed with me, weren't really proud of me, would generally be quite disgusted by some of my behavior. None of them have suffered from alcoholism or understand alcoholism really. So there wasn't too much like sympathy kicking around. Not that I'm a very sympathetic person or deserved sympathy, but it wasn't a kind of, oh, we think you need help. It was a kind of like, why the fuck do you do this all the time?
Are they drinkers?
Not really. Yeah, well, they are. They all drink
Casual
alcohol,
drink,
but
Normal
very,
English people.
Yeah, I'd say that they have a very sparing relationship with alcohol. My parents don't drink very often. They're probably won't mind me saying they're quite old. And my brother will drink at the weekend. I won't speak to his relationship with alcohol. It's none of my business really. But no, he's a professional guy who just has it's never affected him badly. For me, I kind of fell into a really just bad habit, turbulent relationship with it. It was a daily thing. If I ever went a day without drinking, it was because I was very ill, maybe. From the age of about 17 to 29, I probably drank every day. Not always to excess, but to excess a fair amount. Never so much that I was like falling over or unable to get home or like
Definition
unaware
of a
where I
functioning
was.
alcoholic, right?
I was highly functioning.
Yeah.
I
Presumably you were like fit, healthy, young, playing sport.
I wouldn't call myself fit and healthy. I was fit and healthy at school, obviously,
Yeah.
and then after that, my health slowly began to deteriorate. I suppose I was overweight sometimes and not overweight at other times, and sometimes I'd diet and sometimes I'd train, but it was I would drink pretty regularly, and it only became a very visible problem to me quite late in the day. When I was 29 probably is the first times that I began to drink in a way that you're not with anyone. You're drinking whiskey at home on your own, watching a film, and it's like, is this normal? I would have thought it was before.
Yeah.
And it was Vogue who's kind of like, you realise that like you having a bottle of wine with dinner and whiskey like just on a Tuesday night at home like isn't normal. And I
Strong
actually,
words from an Irish woman.
yeah, but I
Yeah.
actually didn't believe her at the time. It's when she fell pregnant with Theodore, our first son, and she stopped drinking for 9 months that it really became apparent, because she would have the odd drink with me and it was less of an issue, you know, before. And we were a fresh couple and we'd go out, you know, quite a lot. And, you know, we've both become far more professional, in inverted commas, and driven than we were when we first met. She cared a lot more about her career before me. You know, I was always pretty wild, like loose cannon, who didn't care about anything really cool. And we met filming a show called The Jump, and I drank like a fish, like on a daily basis during that show. Like literally, it's unbelievable that I was able to win that show. Like, just as a complete joke. Really lucky, actually. Like, but you know, I would drink, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 pints of beer a day, and, you know, whiskey and harder stuff later throughout the day. Have beers during training, you know, just whatever. Like, I was just on a real path to self-destruction, really. And anyway, all of that kind of blew over. I realized before the birth of our first son that Vogue would probably leave me if I carried on behaving in this way. It was a real wake-up call for me. Before her, I was a real kind of take it or leave it kind of guy. Like, the kind of person you were dating was stamped on my forehead. You know, like, you being surprised at my behavior was kind of always shocking to me, because I was very obviously a certain way. You know what I mean? Not defending the behavior, but just, you know, it was kind of clear that I was a party animal who was out all the time, and that's just what you were going to get. And with Vogue, I really wanted to change. I wanted her to feel proud of me. I wanted her to love me. I wanted to be her equal. And I had a lot of work to do to become that person. And that's when I started CleanCo. I don't know where your line of inquiry is going to go, but it was around that time that.
Yeah, thanks for doing the interview for me. I will take control of this interview. Thank you. Yeah. I know. I've got a question before that, mate. Nice try.
Yeah.
So, for some people, there are some people like me who actually didn't watch Made in Chelsea because they don't watch reality TV, full stop. And so I didn't know you until we met, really. Like, it wasn't a thing for me. It was true. I heard your name and I was aware of it, but it's not a thing for me. Like, in that world, I'm like interested in different things, right?
Yeah.
So, which was quite nice, because actually we were able to build up like a normal relationship from the ground up, like, that was just like felt quite natural in the first place. But then, like a few months later, I watched Finding Michael. That was the first thing I'd ever seen you in. And that was incredible, by the way. Like, it's a super moving and brilliant piece of like television history. I thought it was fantastic. What was so interesting in that is, you know, I was able to observe, like, you know, a story about you unencumbered by personal opinions about that guy from that show or anything like that. No negativity, no positivity, no context. And be like deeply empathetic and with great sympathy to the things that happened in your life at that age, which would cause trauma that would create alcoholism in a lot of people. It's a coping mechanism, alcohol, right? And it could be many different ones. Some people choose drugs and other people choose running or whatever the thing is, but you used alcohol for that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I came to kind of understand that myself.
Yeah.
And I was always deeply uncomfortable with blaming Mike's death on my behavior. Like, I felt like I was in control of my drinking. Even if I wasn't, like, I felt like I was making the decision to have a drink. I felt like I lost control towards the end when I took action to change the relationship with alcohol. But like, most of the time, it's like, it's 11, like, go on then. You know, it wasn't like a kind of, I need a drink now. It was like, I'm just going to be that guy, you know. So I did feel in control of it most of the time. And that's why, you know, when I would go to therapy, and I'll tell you about a therapist that completely changed my life, who was brilliant. His name's Chip Summers. So I had therapy, and they, as you said, were all kind of like, look, it's, you know, it's a coping mechanism, and you know, you will have abused alcohol subconsciously because of loss, and you know, and because you haven't grieved properly as a kid. And I always found it kind of insulting. I know that's not, it's the wrong way to think about it, but I always hated somebody trying to give me a reason why I behave a certain way. It's part of the reason I didn't agree with AA. I went to AA, and it was kind of like, you know, and I understand completely that AA helps millions of people and saves lives, and I get it. It just wasn't for me. But it was that whole, we are powerless over our actions and we have no control. And I was just sat there thinking, hang on a second, like I have control, and I think I'm powerful when it comes to making my own decisions. So I just disagreed with it from the very beginning, you know, like renouncing your power and saying, like, essentially, I am useless to the bottle. You know, the bottle controls me.
And therefore, I need 12 steps.
Yeah, and I was like, well, this is bullshit. I can control the bottle, in my opinion. And like, it's let me stress, I'm saying it's bullshit to me and the way my mind works. And I am, as I grow older, I understand that I think differently to to lots of people. But
We've got a nice little prop here for
Yes.
Spencer that he brought and turned up with. I recently read this as well, but mostly just to check if my wife was a psychopath, and she did. She did, in my opinion.
getting into it today, aren't we?
She passed a lot of these things, and it did make me wonder. But Spencer has turned up proudly to declare that he's resonating with a lot of this book, and it does sound a lot like Spencer traits. And having gotten to know you, I can see it. But
to be clear,
right.
I'm like 8 pages into the book, and I interviewed John Ronson.
Psychopaths don't finish this shit, mate.
No,
I'll tell you, you're a.
I interviewed John
clear-cut
Ronson the other
case.
day, and he said that he was fearful of some of my psychopathic traits that he felt that I had. I think he was joking, but maybe not joking. Maybe not.
Yeah, the guy that wrote the psychopath test that told you to your face he was fearful of your psychopathic traits was
he had
joking.
no real reason to be fearful of me. Is the joke?
Got it.
Yeah,
What about the knife?
The knife? Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. No, well, I thought I'd concealed it.
Right.
Segue.
CleanCo.
Segue us. Yeah, thanks, mate.
CleanCo. So you've got Brits, you've got the world over paying you not to drink. You've raised £8 million, and how did you convince the world that this was an enduring brand? It's an incredible brand.
Thank you.
How did you convince everyone to not drink?
Well, I mean, I certainly have not convinced everyone to not drink. We're looking to offer people a really good alternative to alcohol, you know, which didn't really exist at the time. And, you know, we're 6 years into the journey now. We have had a number of very successful fundraisers. We did a £2.1 million seed, then a £7.1 million A, and then a £22 million B.
Oh, wow.
This is all a while ago now, by the way. And
I think what you're trying to say is Chris's research was flawed.
well, no, I
God
mean
damn
it's probably just. But anyway, no,
You've
so
raised tens of millions of pounds to stop Brits from drinking is the fact.
to try and to try and give people choice without compromise when it comes to making decisions around alcohol. I found when I went cold turkey on alcohol, and by the way, I drink now. It's never really on my mind. I don't drink very often. I was at a dinner party last night, not drinking. You know, it's just I don't.
You have the occasional.
I'll have the occasional drink if the mood and, you know, occasion strikes. But it's not. It's something that it's a funny thing. I regret it immediately. Every time I drink, I regret it straight away. So like
In the moment.
pretty much, yeah. Like I'll start sipping away at a glass of wine or something, and I'll just be like, I don't need this glass of wine, and I'm only going to have like 1 or 2. So what's the point? I'm not going to feel the effects of the alcohol. I'm going to go home. It's going to affect my HRV. I'm not going to sleep properly. You know, like all this shit that you worry about when you're 36. Or I'm not sure if anyone else worries about it, but I've become obsessed with 8 hours of sleep and being on form and, you know, trying to achieve my potential. It's all sounds a bit boring potentially, but it matters to me to sleep well and perform to a high level and, you know, give myself the best chance of succeeding and being a good father and a good husband. So yeah, like that's not to say that I don't enjoy the odd drink, by the way, you know, but it's kind of, I don't know, its place in my life is questionable. You know, I think there's a good chance I might end up completely teetotal. But anyway, sorry, I just wanted to get that out there because a lot of people think I am teetotal and I'm not teetotal.
In a way, it's more impressive.
I was going to say it.
It's actually more impressive. I found personally, I've done, you know, bouts on and off with all sorts of things, and personally, I find it much easier to say I'm not doing that thing at all.
The door is closed.
I'm not eating. I'm not eating meat I haven't eaten meat for 6 years, and I just started again 2 weeks ago. It's much easier to then not eat it at all than it is to have low meat intake and be more disciplined around that. I find in general humans are weird like that.
I think you're completely right. So what I do now is I'll set myself like a goal on a certain date. Like I'm just sorry, I realize we're jumping around a lot. I will come straight back to your CleanCo question, but like I'm chasing a sub 3 hour marathon on the 1st of December in Valencia. That's in about 8 weeks time. So I'm not going to drink at all for 8 weeks. You know, even if I feel like it, and even if I'm at a party, and I'm just not going to like. So that door is shut for 8 weeks. It may be that I cross the finish line in Valencia and I don't feel like drinking, I just won't drink then either, you know. But I give myself periods that I'm quite strict with, because you're right. Otherwise, it's kind of like, well, you know, this dinner's nice, I may as well just have a glass of red wine, and then all of a sudden it's once a week, and then all of a sudden it's kind of, you know. So I think I need to be very clear with myself on, you know, when it's kind of okay to drink for me. Otherwise, you know, I guess there is always the potential that it could become a problem. But I think it's to do with discipline and responsibility as well. You know, 3 kids, lots of work, lots of interesting projects. If I go out and nuke myself, you know, I still have to get up at 6:30. I still have to do all my work.
I think
you know,
it's counter to the script you're trying to write for yourself.
Yeah.
So it doesn't fit into that script. So therefore, why write that page kind of
Yeah,
thing? It
yeah.
doesn't make any sense.
Over the last decade, Chris and I have started over a dozen businesses. It's not something we're particularly proud of, by the way, but it means we've had a lot of exposure to different business banks. You try one, you're not so happy, try another, you're not so happy. The cycle goes on. By this point, between us, we were laughing, but we tried them all. There was one we actually hadn't, and it's because they're newer, and we weren't really familiar with the fact that they had this option. So we wanted to try that based on our own knowledge and compare it. And I tell you what, it is head and shoulders above, and we are thrilled to be using and partnering with Wise Business.
Basically, Wise Business is the only account you need to get paid, pay employees and suppliers, and manage your business's money in multiple currencies.
Exactly. With Wise, you can do business across the world, pay, get paid, and manage your business's international money with ease.
And look, here's the thing. You actually save money as you grow. No hidden fees, no sneaky markups on exchange rates, and no ongoing subscription costs. It's like finding money in your pocket that you didn't know was there.
But my favorite part, and this is crucial, it's just so damn easy to use. I know because I'm the one who set it up for this company.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you're lazy. I was never going to get you to do it. But anyway, you can make payments in as little as a few seconds, and it integrates with all your business software.
You can easily withdraw funds from Amazon, Stripe, and more in multiple currencies. And it connects to accounting softwares like Xero and QuickBooks. But damn, what about security?
Well, as you know, every time you try and log in and take money out of the account without
Never
checking
done
with
that.
us first, the security is amazing. They've got 2-factor authentication, a 24/7 customer support team, and a fraud team working around the clock to keep Chris off our money. I could go on about all of the amazing features, but seriously, when you're a small company or even just starting one, there's already so much going on that having a payment service that's quick, easy, and, by the way, most importantly, reliable is just an absolute necessity. And for that reason, we use Wise. If you want to get on board, it's simple. Just head to wise.com/business to learn more about how Wise could work for your business.
With the CleanCo thing, so yeah, when I went sober, I found that we lived in a society basically where you're either drinking or you're not drinking. There was nothing really in between. So Seedlip existed. It was the only non-alcoholic spirits brand in existence.
And it was
at the
really
time.
popular.
Very popular. I'd never heard of it though. It took me 4 months of sobriety, and to be honest, I wasn't out there actively seeking for replacements. I had just shut the door and gone like, I'm not drinking. But like, I didn't want it to affect my social life either. So I was out and people would be drinking and I'd be having non-alcoholic beers, and then you have like 3 pints of non-alcoholic beer and you're kind of a bit bloated, and it's kind of, you know, it just, if you're going to drink pint after pint of beer, you're usually seeking, you know, a bit of inebriation, I suppose.
Yeah.
So it kind of like wasn't great. I wasn't a huge beer drinker anyway, you know, and it was, I felt like there lacked the opportunity for good cocktails without any alcohol. The mocktail, I've always found a strange beast, you know, just
It's basically kids' drinks.
full of sugar, full of fruit juice, you know, comes with a little umbrella in it. Like, you know, I just got no interest in it. I've literally never had a mocktail. And I think a lot of sober people don't drink mocktails, by the way, because it's just like they're, you know, so we've got a new line, cocktails too good to mock. Are our clean cocktails. Very nice.
I tell you didn't write the copy because it's actually good.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
You see how happy he is with it. He definitely wrote that.
No. So cocktails, we want to be known as clean cocktails, you know, not mocktails, not fake spirits, not, you know, it's a clean alternative to what's essentially a toxic drink. And there's no judgment in the brand. There's no judgment in me. I've got nothing against alcohol. Most people that I know drink. Most of our clients drink alcohol. clients, customers.
Yeah, it's
But,
an opportunity to have some balance through the night, for example, as well. It's not a teetotal message.
Yeah, it's. I think the market for teetotalism is currently not as big and exciting as the market for moderation.
Totally. I think this is a perfect example as well. You're seeing this in the vegan food market as well. The overcorrection. The reality is, the vegan market isn't so big, and the idea of trying to get everyone to turn vegan is impossible, and it's wasted energy. The correct thing to try and do is to get people to eat less meat. Stay eating meat, but just eat less. And that overall would make a much bigger impact on society, which is what they're trying to do with veganism.
Yeah.
And so in reality, like, those vegan food companies are having a nightmare time, whereas the companies that are trying to provide more variety into their mix and just a little bit less meat are filling that gap. And it's the perfect analogy, really.
I think as an analogy, if we're going to use veganism, it's interesting, and I'll pair CleanCo with some famous vegan brands in the sense that the product has to be good enough for people to want to consume it at the end of the day, right? So like if you were a vegan 10, 15 years ago, and you wanted a roast dinner, you were met with a nut roast or something, which
Or a mushroom.
doesn't fill the boots of mum's delicious roast lamb. And so that comes with a compromise, right? So there's nut roast, then there was corn, then there's the veggie burger,
And then there's Beyond.
and then there's Beyond Meat, right? And you can have a Beyond Meat burger and actually be perfectly happy with the experience of having a Beyond Meat burger. That's what we want to do for the gin and tonic, for the margarita, for the mojito. Like, oh God, I'd love that delicious, thirst quenching kick of a nice strong margarita because I feel like I've had a big day at work and, I really want to let my hair down and have a bit of fun. But I know I shouldn't be drinking because, I'm supposed to be home in an hour. And if I have one, I'll probably have three and my wife will be pissed off with me. And I've got to be up tomorrow morning at 6 to take, Otto to nursery. So, I don't feel like drinking tonight. So I'm going to have a glass of water or something. Compromise. So to be able to have that clean margarita that has the thump and the kick and the taste and flavor profile of tequila without any of the negative repercussions of drinking alcohol was always the idea behind the brand. And calling it clean, sorry, just to add, feels like a positive step in the right direction because almost everything else is negative. It's non-alcoholic. Sounds like a non-event or a non-party. A non-alcoholic beer makes you sound like an alcoholic. Like, hi, I'd like to have can I have a non-alcoholic beer? It's like, drinking problem. Why would he be having a non-alcoholic beer? So it's kind of like a clean beer, not that that exists, but, a clean cocktail. It makes you sound like you're making a positive choice instead of a sacrifice.
You've just touched on something really interesting. Alcohol is pretty much the only drug in the world that if you tell people you're going to stop, they ask you why.
Yeah.
Or what's wrong with you, or
Yeah,
what's changed in your life. It is just so fascinating.
Well, if I sat here and said I'm going to stop doing blow, you'd all say,
Good for you. How can we help?
That's good. I
Yeah.
think that's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Generally.
And if I say I'm giving up alcohol, everyone goes, no, why?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's just so, and then, even your point, like non-alcoholic beer, because you've had a drinking problem, you've taken it to excess. So it's like, there's the awareness of the fact that it is obviously a toxic poison, but it's so ingrained in society that like you become an outlier and an abnormality for choosing not to have it.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Just thinking about that as a comparable, like, if there was cocaine again to go just to because alcohol and cocaine aren't a million miles from each other when it comes to the neuro.
Well, they're just uppers in general. That's what's going on inside your body, except for gin.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying like if somebody were to bring cocaine to a party and you were to go, I don't take coke, you're not going to assume that person was once a cokehead. It's like. It might just be that person doesn't indulge in Class A drugs, and and that's normal, right? Yeah. Whereas I think with alcohol, it is different. There is always an assumption. I had it last night. Like I went to a dinner party with 2 old friends and a host, so 4 of us. Red wine around the table. I like a glass of red wine. I just wasn't drinking last night. I told myself, as I said, that I'm not going to drink for the next 8 weeks, so I just didn't drink. And the person next to me was just like, oh, but I thought you did drink a bit. And I was like, yeah, no, I do. Yeah. And they were like, oh, so why aren't you drinking tonight? I was like, because I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, yeah, and then you're also like, I can't believe that I'm explaining this. Just
Yeah,
the
no,
answer is
I
just move
like,
on.
if I-
you
if
asked
I-
me if I want wine, the answer was no.
If
You
I
move on to the
wanted
next
a glass
person.
of wine, I would have one.
Yeah.
I would reach for the bottle.
Yeah, yeah.
So you obviously were and are a successful and well-known person, and I feel like you said a moment ago, like, to realize my own potential, which I thought was quite interesting. Like, you didn't need to start a big business. So what's the drive there for you? What is this reaching the potential? Did that come later in life?
Yeah, that changes. The goalposts on that move for me quite regularly. I wanted to be taken very seriously in the entrepreneurial space. I wanted to be a big successful founder. I wanted to build a massive company. I still want those things. They're less important to me now than they once were.
Why? What changed?
I don't know. I'm just thinking about it now. Actually, it's a really good. It's a really good question.
I swear people would like actually tip upwards towards that. I've found.
Don't get me wrong. I'm very competitive. I want CleanCo to win. You know, we're the leading independent brand in the world. I don't want that to change.
But we spoke so much last year about stuff, and you have been different in the last couple of months, and it feels more like ambitious but balanced.
Yeah.
Last year was ambitious and frenetic, and we both were. But
Yeah.
we were sort of there's constant conversations about like fundraising and all that kind of stuff. It feels there's some different energy about it from you.
I think I'm a more rounded individual. It's like, I'm less excitable. I think things, take a different turn from time to time. You can't control everything, and to get wound up by things that you can't control is just not in my wheelhouse. That we had aspirations for the brand that are completely different now. When we first launched into the States, we did this massive deal. We raised £22 million at a pre-money valuation of £80 million on like 4 million of turnover. This is before Russia invaded Ukraine, and we were treating ourselves like a tech company.
Perfect time to raise.
And it was we had a ton of interest, and we raised a lot of money. And we went pedal to the metal into the US like we were just going to own the space. We launched into 44 states. And that was just a mistake, like we hired a bunch of blue chip people, paid them an absolute fortune.
Investor pressure.
Yeah, and I fully believed at the time that we were going to go and become $1 billion brand in 2-3 years. And, I felt like, the reincarnation of Steve Jobs for a period. And it turns out that it just doesn't go your way. And for a number of reasons, we didn't take into account the education required to build like a category. There was nothing there.
I always wondered about this, by the way. I don't remember if we spoke about this, but I thought a lot about Clean going into the USA and then when it didn't work.
Yeah.
Because in the UK, our conversation was like, we're literally killing it. Like, we've got to go into the USA now. We've taken the market by storm in the UK, which you had.
Yeah.
And then in the US, was just like, it's educating the market, and it just hasn't worked, and why don't people care? And like, to me, the fundamental insight, it's all about insights in markets, right? In the UK, broadly, we do have a drinking problem. Yeah. Like, generally, it is a very alcohol-focused culture. And so to your previous point, people do need alternatives from alcohol to get off alcohol. So people need the non-alcoholic beer, and you're providing an amazing gap for all the cocktail drinkers, spirit drinkers, etc., to have something that tasted great as that alternative. In the USA, there may be drinking problems in some states or not or whatever, but, broadly, they have a sugar problem.
Yeah.
They're all on sodas, and soda is non-alcoholic. So you're kind of providing this opportunity of an alternative, but there is an existing alternative that is literally more fundamental to their culture than alcohol is.
Yeah. But also just, we haven't necessarily ever focused on people with drinking problems. We just want to be an alternative to things. And obviously they do drink alcohol in the States. It was more the idea of a non-alcoholic gin doesn't exist, right? So you have to firstly let people know that it exists, and then this is the brand for you, and then this is how you use it, and it was just an oversight. We went in with Southern Glazers. One of our board directors is really close with Wayne Chaplin, who's the CEO of Southern Glazers. Massive distribution company, great big deal with them, boom, massive order up front, you know, all just like super exciting shit. I remember the day that the order went through, you know, we made $6 million in a day or something.
You
I
asked
was
Steve
like,
Jobs.
what is going on? Yeah, exactly. But then it's like,
I'm drinking tonight.
but then, yeah, exactly. yeah. But then, you know, it's
You
like
celebrating on clean? No, something harder than that, mate.
at the time, the shelf life of the product was 18 months, which gives them not that long to shift it into retail nationally. None of the retailers know what it is, and you're assuming that Wayne Chaplin's gonna kind of pick up the phone, and he doesn't really give a fuck. It's $6 million, and they're doing 60 million a day of turnover. He doesn't care at all. So all of a sudden, you're left with like, you know, some dude that's never heard of us and whose hand we've never even shaken. He's got all of this stock, and what does he do with it? We don't know, you know. And it's kind of, it became this quite disjointed thing that we had very little control over. And just to fast forward quickly, because I'd love to talk to you about all kinds of stuff. We're now in 6 states. You know, we're in lots of US retail. We're in 9,000 distribution points. The business is growing stably, albeit not as quickly as we would have loved it to. We've got a US, global CEO called Billy Peretti, who used to run Belvedere. You know, things are,
Amazing.
you know, like it went from being quite pear-shaped to stable. And, you know, we now exist in a stable thing. But I found it really interesting, the question about just the general mindset for stuff. It's like things take turns that you don't expect, as you both know. You know, new opportunities and doors open and present themselves. And sometimes because I was inexperienced, I would put a lot of pressure on certain things happening. And then when they wouldn't happen, I would go into this kind of, you know, turbulent zone where you're up until 5 a.m, like calling everyone. And it became quite clear to me, one of our investors and board chair is Ursula Burns. She's this incredible woman. She was the first black woman to CEO a Fortune 500 company. She happens to be my neighbor. She ran Xerox. I helped her with her groceries one day. I say groceries because she's American. And she invested £2 million into CleanCo, and she's now our board
Good
chair.
neighbors.
But she liked me, and she liked the brand, and she liked the taste of it, and she liked the idea of clean drinking, and she just came in, boom. And then, you know, fast forward a few years, and she's chairing the board, and she, under pressure, is just like, she's brilliant. Like, stuff goes pear-shaped. She goes, right, I won't bother doing her accent, just in case she listens to this. But she goes, you know, she literally goes, right, okay, this is off the table now. These are the 2 options that we have. Which option do we feel more comfortable with? Okay, we all agree that option B is the best option. Option A is gone now. All resources and efforts just go into option B. Boom, let's go. New plan, whack, end of call. It's like, okay, so, you know, the first 2 options that we're working on are done now, and let's work on this. You know, she's just calm and considered, and, you know, never raises a voice, and just, it's all fluid. Everything is fluid, isn't it? You know, not to sound like some hippie,
No,
but
totally.
it is. It's like, you know.
Yeah, totally. You have to pay attention to it. And I think that's actually one of the areas where over decades or you know, reps or minutes spent, right? You know, she outplays you. How could she not? She's got much more experience. And so her in her 30s doing this maybe isn't all of the things you're saying, but her at this stage of her life is so completely aware of that. And I found in my business as well, you know, having the opportunity to work with people like that, you get to absorb it. It's unbelievable privilege. You get to be like, oh right, that's how an adult would behave in this relationship.
I think I'm quite lucky in the sense that I'm not naturally an anxious or stressful person, right? I am quite a calm person anyway. Not to say that lots of the ups and downs in my startup career weren't stressful. Of course they were, but ultimately, that kind of energy is wasted. Like stressing, fretting, trying to control the uncontrollable, you know, trying to control other people, right? Like you're doing a fundraise, people say they're going to do one thing, they do the other. It's unreal. Like I've had signed term sheets for.
Oh yeah.
I had a signed term sheet for £15 million once, like from a single investment firm, and like 2 weeks before they were supposed to fund it, they were just like, let's sever the exclusivity contract. You guys can look for other people. You know, we're not sure we're going to do this anymore. I was like, we've been exclusive for 3 months or something.
We've stopped looking for other people.
I've actively stopped searching for other people.
I've killed the FOMO.
No, so and then all of a sudden, so, you know, it's hard to trust other people with where you have to be, right? It's part of the reason that I back myself to do certain things and not that many others. Like I invested in Heights because we had an interview and I loved you, and it was very clear to me that that you knew what you were talking about, and I just liked your vision and understood your ability to deliver what you want to deliver, right? It's important. It's people who and I was very gung-ho at the start of all of this. There was really no reason to believe that I would deliver anything that I was saying I would deliver, other than for the fact that I'm very competitive and believe in myself. Like I will find a way. I couldn't understand that glass production would take 8 months. So I found a way to have it done in like 3 months. And people were like, oh no, that's just the lead time. And I was like, no, but it's a bullshit lead time.
Yeah.
Like, let's just find a company that can do it quicker. And I flew around all over the place having meetings, finding someone that could do it faster so that we could move quicker. I was like I don't understand why this takes 8 weeks. Let's do it in 2 weeks. And people were just like, well, like that's just not how this works.
Is
and
the benefit of being the outsider?
Yeah, I don't care how it works. Let's, 2 weeks is 14 days. It's a really long time to get this done. Let's do it. So that was quite beneficial. We were able to move much faster than lots of our competition because I simply wouldn't understand the lead times.
I think you've actually identified something really interesting. Sometimes people are perfect for the starting point. You need that mania, that desire to break through any doors or barriers that regular people put down around you, because you don't understand why they're so comfortable telling you those are the rules. You're like, says who?
Yeah, exactly.
Like literally let me go above you and above you, above you until I prove that what you are telling me is true. It's not true at all. It's just your words. But then to get to the next stage, which is where Clean is now, in scaling, much more useful to have someone like Ursula's calm understanding of the big strategic levers that you can't actually do all of them.
Absolutely. Like there's no way that I as CEO could get CleanCo to be a 50 million turnover business. Like I don't know how to do that, right? I got us quite comfortably to I think it was £4 million of turnover.
Yep.
And we would have stayed there for a while. I don't know what to do past that stage. But now I'd like to think that I'm learning from, people who are more seasoned executives than me.
But respect to you, man, because most founders do not have that self-awareness.
Yeah, I think that's another thing. Back in the days that we were talking about, the main Chelsea days, I think people would have naturally seen me as having a massive ego. I think that's not true. I'm a confident person. I will do whatever it takes to win, basically, even if that means giving the thing to somebody else, right? Like the clearest path to victory should just make sense. It's not about you being the person driving it. It's kind of like hiring Billy Peretti to be CEO was a very easy decision for me, and me stepping down as CEO because he understands it more than me.
You're more likely to get to victory.
You're more likely to win. So great, let's do that. I couldn't care less if by the time CleanCo exits or goes public or whatever, I'm making coffee for everyone. I couldn't give a shit. I don't care. I'm just keen for the thing to win.
How does your relationship with equity and shareholding and therefore voting rights all change as things are moving?
How does my relationship with it?
Yeah, your perspective.
So say
on
when
this,
you're making
obviously-
the coffee,
Yeah.
would you be owning all the equity?
I'm the largest shareholder. Yeah, but that doesn't mean to say that I make all the decisions, as you know. That we have board approval for anything serious, as you would with any company. Ursula's chair, I'm often guided by her. I definitely went through a stage where I was more than happy to just be guided by the board. I think it has been a very important thing for me not to just do what I'm told. I think because it's kind of, there was definitely a period where the business lost its shape, just because we hired a bunch of people who suddenly started treating us like Budweiser, and we had 8 or 9 hoops to jump through before a color could be changed, and I was just like, what is this? Why is it taking a week to change the fucking color?
It's a huge topic, right? The Brian Chesky did the whole founder mode thing is broadly around this, right? That the idea that when you sacrifice so much control on the premise that hire good people and leave them to do good work doesn't always necessarily work. You do need someone in the ring who's going to say, bottles take, they don't take 8 months, they take 3 months.
Yeah.
And I think that a company kind of needs someone who doesn't exist in the ordinary structure, someone who will say like, fuck it, we're going to just do it this other way. So I think that like maybe you could become the lead again, because like Ben France left Gymshark and came back.
Yeah, I mean,
Could happen.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? And this is all stuff that had you asked me that a couple of years ago, I would have gone, no, like it has to be Billy. But yeah, like I think I probably could. It depends. It depends.
One of my
I'm just more relaxed in general about it all.
Yeah.
Because I was losing a lot of sleep over it. I was spending countless hours in the office. I was just like obsessing over a number that we had to hit. And ultimately, if you don't hit the number, you don't hit the number. That's the end of the day, whatever. It's kind of like, I think it's very important that the numbers that you set out for your shareholders, you believe you're going to hit. Sometimes you do better, sometimes you do worse. And it's just kind of like, I became very obsessed with having to always be on target. And it's ultimately, in reality, that never happens really. Like, there's maybe I've invested in like 20 businesses. Maybe 2 of them are kind of ahead of where they said they would be.
We're one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a remarkable thing where people take investment and then they pursue these targets, and the numbers are made in a room in like an isolated instance, and you say we're going to hit X million this year. Everyone goes, yeah, we are.
Yeah, number goes up.
Yeah, and then you
we all agree number goes up. Yeah, number goes up. All right, cool. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like for most founders, right? The good advice is they raised money, they went to America, it didn't quite work out. They're still building a great company. I think that for a lot of founders, that is such a struggle to not be what they once thought they were going to be.
Yeah.
Especially like you raised, 2021, the big round?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
that's right.
There are hundreds of people who, including myself, who raised massive rounds in 2021 and didn't become exactly what they always thought they were going to be.
Yeah.
And so that like normalization, I think is very healthy.
And £100 million business as that was in 2021 just isn't in 2024, and that's okay.
Yeah, but exactly. But this is kind of what I learned, right? In my mind, when I was losing sleep in a hotel room in New York, arguing with my private equity lead, shouting at each other, at like 4 a.m, because some things you simply can't see in the future, and I can remember thinking at the time, like, fuck, we're going to have to resize the business, and we're going to have to do a down round, and we're going to have our tail between our legs, and I'm going to have to go out to people at a fucking lower valuation than I had before, and it's going to like feel like this huge failure. Who cares?
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah, who gives
Whatever.
a fuck? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Still built a company making millions.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, but it's important. So like, you go through experiences like that and you come out fine, right? And the thing is, I think we can sell clean for a huge amount of money, and it's just going to take a lot longer than I thought it would.
Yeah.
And it's just, you just have to reshape the way you look at time and timelines. Like I envisaged us when we first started clean. There was no data to suggest that non-alcoholic spirits were going to be a market. There was no competition. There was only Seedlip. So I was just going after Seedlip and their client base. And like, I wanted to just put a dent in in them, and that was just a gut feeling. It's like, I feel like this should exist. This is the kind of thing that I would drink. So I'm going to make it. It wasn't like, oh my God, look at these millions of people who need satisfying with this data. It had nothing to do with that. It was literally just a gut feeling. And I flew around the country going to different distilleries saying, we're going to make the world's first non-alcoholic gin. Because Seedlip, and I think Seedlip, by the way, a brilliant company, they don't call themselves a gin. They don't have gin flavor. They're not made with juniper. There's no similarity, actually, to gin. If you mix any of the Seedlip products with tonic, it doesn't taste like gin. One is orange flavored, one is like pea flavored. It's made with hay and bark and all kinds of stuff. Which
pea flavored one sounds great, by the way.
Which I think is really interesting. It's like it's a botanical. It's a botanical marvel. It's cool. It's new. It's fresh. It's interesting. It's cool. Like, I loved it. Is it gin? No, right? So I was like, why did he do that? Like, I'm gonna make a gin. So you taste the thing and you go, fuck, this tastes like gin and tonic. So that was the idea, to be the world's first non-alcoholic gin. Got into loads of trouble for calling it gin, because legally you can't call it gin. It has to be 37.5% with a predominance of juniper. And, all kinds of stuff. And we lived and learned and tore up legal letters and threw them in bins and carried on anyway. And we had loads of fun. I felt like, Wolf of Wall Street. It was cool. And you know, the whole thing was a really interesting time in my life, full of learnings.
One of my favorite business quotes is from Peter Drucker, and he says, "The bottleneck is always in the same place, the top of the bottle." And I love it because it's so simple, it's so true, it's so applicable. And the point being, when you realize that you at the top of the bottle are the bottleneck for the whole business, you've got to change that top. And I think that's a really interesting thing. You know, you brought so much to that business to a certain point, but you became a bottleneck for, can it become the $1 billion business or not? And when you realize that, we had the same thing with Julian Hearn at Huel. You know, how early on in his journey, I think they got to maybe 5 or 6 million. I've known Julian since he started that company. He's so early on switched. He changed out to a CEO who's turned that into an unbelievable business. And he's still in it, but he's in a much more relevant place in the business for him. And I think I have so much respect for CEOs and founders who recognize that at the right time for the business, get out the way and enable other people in the business to actually create that vision. It is not celebrated enough and it's not talked about enough.
Well, thank you.
So well done.
Yeah. Cheers.
You nailed it. Dan and I have started over a dozen companies between us, so we know how this goes. You're starting up, you're scaling, ideas are flowing, you're making plans, and you're really getting caught up in the bigger picture. This is when the fine details can find themselves overlooked. I'm talking about security and compliance.
Now, before you roll your eyes and reach for that skip button, hear us out. This isn't your grandpa's boring lecturer on following rules. This is about building trust, and in the digital world, trust is the new currency. Here's the thing. You don't have to go through this nightmare if you use Vanta.
Vanta is like having a compliance guru, a risk management wizard, and a trust-building ninja all rolled into one sleek AI-powered package. They automate the hell out of compliance for SOC 2 and ISO 27001. Say it with me.
ISO 27001.
All jokes aside, I've experienced this myself with my company Lottie. We weren't allowed to pitch one of the biggest companies in the country because we didn't have our ISO 27001 certification in place. And so this is a serious thing.
If only you'd have had Vanta, mate. Vanta doesn't just tick boxes, it builds trust. And in business, trust is everything. That's why Chris couldn't get that deal through. It's the difference between a prospect saying, maybe later, and shut up and take my money. With Vanta, you're not just complying, you're showing the world you've got your stuff together. Over 8,000 companies already use Vanta. Whether you're a scrappy startup or you're scaling, Vanta's got your back.
Now I know what you're thinking. This sounds great, but I bet it costs an arm and a leg. Well, if you head over to vanta.com/secret leaders right now, you'll get $1,000 off. So give Vanta a shot and join the ranks of businesses that are building trust faster than you can say SOC 2 compliance. Trust me, your future self and your stress levels will thank you.
Yeah.
So what's next? You talk about ambition. You talk about potential. You said you might even be looking for titles. You said something earlier. I thought it would be quite nice. Potentially boring. Potentially boring. There
Untapped potential. Yeah. No. I'm quite keen to. When I was in Jordan running, I had a lot of time to think and prioritize bits and bobs because
get some context. Not everyone knows about this. So you've just, Chris, we're officially talking to a Guinness World Record holder. It's pretty good. It's off-brand. Well, it's Guinness 0%, I'd assume.
I saw the coverage.
Yeah. So
very cool.
Firstly, congratulations.
Thank you.
It's fucking awesome.
Thank you.
But yeah, you're a Guinness World Record holder.
Yeah.
You did 30 marathons in 30 days on sand. First person that's ever done it.
Yeah.
Previous record was 25?
I think something like that. We didn't dwell too much on the previous guys.
Something worse. Something worse.
Something less.
So now you've done it. What's next?
That experience changed my life, and it changed. It just felt like real change. You know, as you may know about me, I don't kind of wander around doubting myself. Really,
you do not.
No, but I might be wrong. You know, whatever. It's.
But it's one of those, if you think you can or think you can't, you're right. And actually, it's a great mindset
Exactly.
point.
It's confidence. It's not arrogance. Of course, I don't always win. Of course, I make mistakes. Of course, things don't always go my way. But I dwell in a place where I think I can do stuff, right? And I'm growing and learning along the way. And when I decided towards the end of last year that I wanted to run 30 marathons in 30 days in the desert. I had no idea if that would be physically possible, right? Because it had never been done before. And I had doubt, obviously. And it was made worse, actually, by the doubt of others and the doubt of some very serious people that I would call and talk to about it. And they were just
I'm sure your wife as well, like not doubt, but fear, concern.
Her exact words when she realized I was being serious were, but it will kill you. But she thought I would die doing it, and I said, "Well, I'm not going to die. Obviously, like if it's a problem, I'll stop, and I'll have a doctor with me, and like I'll be with a team of people. Like I'm not going to die. I'd be very unlucky to die, I should say." And it was so I went in with some doubts, and obviously I was very aware that if I went and rolled my ankle or had a very serious problem early on, that this would be a big failure on record, right? And I believe that failing is good for you. But when you put kind of all your eggs in one basket and you say publicly, like, right, I'm off to run 30 marathons in 30 days, in the back of my mind, if you don't do 20 of them...
Yeah, you've got to do at least 20.
Got to do 20.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was thinking, like when I get to 20, I'll feel comfortable because, you can't go and do 2. You just can't do it.
Yeah, and everyone
You have to pretend like you hadn't started.
Yeah, and everyone else watching it can't do 20.
You've got to try and just hope that nobody notices.
No, that's what I mean. But you know that you really just could never get to 20. So at least if you've done that, like you said, it's still an exception.
I think it is like pretty human, like crazy human feat.
Yeah.
I felt quite a lot of pressure going into it because I teamed up with Global, who, as I'm sure you know, own a lot of radio stations and podcasts, and their reach far supersedes mine. I was keen to do something with a lot of reach for a good cause. Their charity, Global's Make Some Noise, does some incredible work with about 100 small charities in the UK, working closely with a lot of children. Who are, suffering from bereavement, homelessness, loneliness, mental and physical health issues, cancer. So, it covered a lot of causes that were quite close to my heart, but it also shone a massive, great big light on it, right? Like we were on Heart Radio all the time, and they put me on billboards as well. You had
your CleanCo.
Yeah, of course. Don't forget CleanCo,
yeah.
And essentially there was a lot of pressure. I remember flying out thinking, I've done about, as much as I possibly can to prepare for this thing. But like at the end of the day, is my body going to hold up to run 30 marathons? Right. I've never ran 2 back-to-back marathons. Right. I've done some ultra events that have covered lots of distance, but I've never ran 2 marathons back-to-back. So this is going to be interesting and exciting. And look, long story short, it was a great big success. Obviously we I did it in the end. And it completely changed my life. It changed the way, this is just me being candid. It doesn't matter, but like it changed the way people see me. It changed the way people treat me. It's weird. Like coming from that reality TV background that we spoke about earlier. Reality TV, and I mean no disrespect to people who are currently on reality TV, is not for me. Like I'm like you. I don't watch reality TV. I've never watched Strictly. I've never watched Towie. I've never watched Geordie Shore. I've never watched Made in Chelsea. Like I used to watch it when we were on it a little bit, but it's not the kind of TV that excites me. I don't care about it. I don't find it interesting at all. So for me to kind of be in a different space and for these doors to open up, like the endurance athlete space. And by the way, like I may be a world record holder, but there are thousands of people who are much better runners than me who could do what I have done. I may be. I don't know, mate.
That's pretty superhuman stuff.
I may be the only person that's done it, but there are plenty of people who could do it. It's just organizing this kind of thing is
expensive as well. Yeah,
it's a costly thing, and I feel very privileged to have been the person who had the opportunity to do this race. It's not like there are tons of people. I think if you plonked them in my shoes, could do it as well. So I'm not sat here thinking I'm some extraordinary athlete, but I am in a space now where I feel like, without sounding like a twat, my voice probably can be heard a bit more than before. Like I was always very conscious and turned down jobs to speak at things. 'Cause it's like, if I was in the audience and some character from Made in Chelsea walked on and they're telling me about peak performance or something, why the fuck would I listen to them? Like they've got no idea about anything. is the general view I feel of like people on that show. Is privilege, money, like whatever. So to do something like this really made me proud of myself. Like it proved to my former self, the lazy alcoholic, that anything's possible really when you turn your mind to something. And it was an opportunity for me to really enjoy achieving something great. It's the proudest I've ever been of myself. It's
That's
the biggest,
great.
Children aside,
Yeah.
marriage aside.
But that's nice, right?
No, but if I were to die today, I've done that.
Yeah, you've done something exceptional.
I raised £620,000 for kids who really need it, and I've done something that no human has ever done before. Cool, I actually felt so whole.
Totally.
When I got back, I was like, "That is so fucking awesome!" Like, I love that kind of thing. I'm deeply inspired by other people who've done similar things, and I've always wanted to be like them. Right, so now I feel like them. It's cool. I even get messages from people like them, and it's like, it gave me a real sense of purpose.
I think one of the most interestingly difficult things about being British and British culture is we hang a lot on people's past, and we love to keep bringing it up and shame them and all of the things, this made in Chelsea stuff, which is, understandably a big trigger for you. It's really frustrating that it gets brought up.
Understandably. It's true.
I can't believe you started with that question as well.
It's fine.
Unbelievable.
No, but
he loves made in Chelsea secretly.
Yeah, I think so.
But I think the real cultural opportunity is to find people like you, role models instead, because what you actually do is say, I publicly televised unhealthy behavior and person who, frankly, I don't recognize today, but it still was me. It's my past. So I am still that person in theory, or that's my body. But at some point, I had a moment where enough was enough, and I decided to put my energy into something else, into a clear vision, a purpose, entrepreneurship at first. And then obviously, the idea of potential and performance and where these things can get you. And I think that's a really great example, because it's like, as long as we can let go of people's past and actually give people the opportunity to change and celebrate who they are now and where they're going, we'd have a much better society and relationship to, wealth, success, performance, economic growth, like love and kindness, everything. But we just are so stuck on this idea of people's past and just obsessing about the gossip of it instead of focusing on what you're doing now, for example, which is a great example for people, genuinely.
I was incredibly humbled by the response to that race or challenge or whatever you want to call it. I in almost everything that I do, there's positivity and
Snark.
Jealousy, hatred, whatever, it's usually a little bit of a mix, right? And the positivity that came from this challenge was incredible, and I agree with everything you've said. But that's exactly why I want to do more in this space, because it was just overwhelmingly awesome. It touched the hearts of lots of people. I hope it doesn't sound weird me saying it, right? I probably shouldn't be the person to say this, but
Well, that's why I just did.
I walk down the street and it's like, people are going, well, I ran my first 10K the other day because of you.
That's cool.
And just like, bits and bobs, and just like what you achieved is like completely woken me up to like go and, do more with, and it's just like, this obviously wasn't the reason for doing it, but it's so cool that it's had that effect on some people. And it's just like, it's just awesome. Like, I had the time of my life out there. You guys haven't asked, but most people say, no. It's usually no, but usually people
Don't worry,
dwell.
it'll be a crap question.
Usually people dwell
What's
on
the
like the
next question?
negativity of it. Like was it like, what was the most difficult part about it?
Well, I mean, I know
Did
that
you
you
ever
would
feel like giving up?
I
And it's
know
all
that-
negative still.
I know you were taking heights every day, so I have to worry about whether anything was difficult. It was just
Heights-
all easy and flow.
I'm not here to
Ad break.
no, but it's Heights is a brilliant product. My wife and I take it every single day. We absolutely love it. I take your magnesium in the evening and the rest of the pills in the morning.
And look at that recovery.
It's mate, honestly, I love what you guys do. Delighted to be a shareholder, and it's a really great product.
Thank you.
I think when you start layering it into other action that you can take. So, you know, like sleeping properly, reading every day, you know, having your coffee a little bit later in the morning, less
Healthy
screen
habits.
time, healthy habits. It's like you feel invincible, really. And that's a great feeling. If you could bottle that and sell it, you know,
Well, that's clean.
look at that.
There it is.
Collab incoming.
Chris is like, shut the fuck up, you two. I've got a question.
No. I mean, I don't know if you've asked any of the questions.
Don't worry. Yeah.
He's right. He's right.
No, I was going to say, I've never really been Made in Chelsea watcher. The only reason I know so much about you is my wife is in love with your wife.
Right,
She loves her show, right?
Yeah.
However, I then became more aware of you because of him.
Yeah.
And he, was talking about doing shoots and stuff with you. And I think even for me, my friends and I aren't exactly like super fit people, but we were all like, if this dude can run 30 fucking marathons in the desert, we can at least do one. Like, come on, like let's get our shit together. Like, getting up to mid-30s, like, he's a bit older than us. Let's pull our stuff together.
He had to throw that in there. Didn't he? Yeah.
To put ourselves together and get ourselves a bit healthier. And I think it's like, I mean, whether it's strategically rebranding or whether it's like internal purpose, I think the transition from, I suppose what you were doing to what you're doing now is awesome. I think it's going to have a massive impact on people.
I just want to do more of that. I want to keep challenging myself. Like, I felt so alive out there, and just the only negative was being away from my family and kids. Obviously there was the odd low, but it was ultimately a great big high. Like, I fucking loved it. Like, literally loved it. Like, great music all the time, good exercise, good fun. Like, the part of the desert that we were in, the Wadi Rum desert for most of it, is like insanely beautiful. Like, the sun, we'd run really early in the morning, see shooting stars all over the night with like headlamps on, and then the sun would rise over the canyons, and like all of the purples and yellows and reds would just pop, and you'd be like, I'm the only person ever in history to like be running marathons through this place. It's just so like, it was just so cool.
Was it spiritual? Are you a spiritual person?
I had a really bad first day. Like, a really bad first day. I was a bit heavier than I had been in my training block. I had a 2-week taper where I basically didn't run at the end, but I carried on eating like a dump truck, because I was running so much that like I must have been eating 5,000 calories a day during my training block, and that carried on. So I actually gained a bit of weight before heading out. Not that that matters. I was just a bit heavier. So a bit flatter footed, and, a bit like, flew out to Jordan, obviously got going the following day. And the GPS wasn't working, and blah, blah, blah. There was, a little list of things that just didn't really go according to plan on day one. We were really close to the Israeli border. All GPS was showing us as being in Egypt and Cairo. And like, we had a pre-approved Guinness World Records route, so we knew it being the very first one, roughly where we were going. But our chorusers and stuff weren't working. So it was kind of like, it was saying you'd ran 2K when you'd ran like 10K. And it was just a mind fuck. It was just it wasn't fun at all. I also had a mad niggle in my right knee, like on day one, right? So it was like 10K to go. My right knee was in like trouble. And I was just like, what the fuck? I was like, I like physically can't not carry on, right?
Yeah.
So like, and I was also trying to hide it from them. Wasn't really talking to the physio about it because I just thought it was so lame that like that would happen.
Yeah.
And I can remember just thinking like, shit, like this is going to be horrendous if this is an actual problem. I remember calling my mum at the first camp because we still had reception, and she was like, how was it? I was like, this is going to be like a really long month. I was like, that was not great. And there's 29 left. And then the following morning, because you asked me if I was spiritual, I prayed to Mike, which I find myself doing if I'm in real need of something. I'm a bad prayer, right? I'm a selfish prayer. Like, I don't believe in God, but I'll pray to God if I need something.
And Mike being your deceased
he knows
brother.
as well. Like, he knows what I'm up to.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I try and cheat the system. I'm not I don't pray regularly. I don't give myself to the Lord, but if I need something from the Lord, I'll selfishly ask Him for something, And I said a prayer to Mike, something small, just please make like these niggles go away. Please just let me like run safely just for one day. Just let me just get into this, you know, and like give me safe passage basically just to, you know, the end of marathon 2. And we started running pitch black, and like 10 minutes into the run, this shooting star shot across the sky, but it was the most insane thing I'd ever seen, you know, just like a great big, like I've seen lots of shooting stars, very lucky, but like this thing, I'm still actually unclear as to whether or not it was even a shooting star, but it was something entering the atmosphere or a shooting star, went the whole way across, and the tail that it left just went like dark red, and it just lit the sky up, and I was like, oh, and it just felt like this great big sign, and all of a sudden I kind of loosened up because I was like, I'm being heard by Mike or whoever, and I had a beautiful day and no niggles at all, and I just thought I'll do that every morning, and I did this little prayer every morning, and saw shooting stars a lot of the time, nothing quite as impactful as that first one, and yeah, you know, I had niggles and stuff, but you know, nothing that became a serious issue. And yeah, those experiences are quite spiritual, but you know, I wouldn't say it was as cathartic as, you know, I did the Marathon des Sables in 2021. I wasn't really ready for it. That was my punishment, by the way, for giving up booze. So when I first went teetotal, I think it was like a day later, I signed up to the Marathon des Sables as like a right, you've been a prick for so long that, you know, you can go and punish yourself in the desert. So I did that, and that I wasn't ready for, and that was just painful and long, and that felt very cathartic, like in and out of consciousness almost, and you know, like that was like a real thing. So to achieve that, then, you know, was helpful for my thought process to do this bigger thing, because it's like, well, if I can do that on like hardly any training, you know, if I really prepare for something, I should be able to do it.
We talk about narratives, you know, you had the sort of Made in Chelsea thing, you had this like period of entrepreneurship. You've now got your own audience. You're talking about Global's got a big reach and stuff, but you've obviously got 1 million followers on Instagram. You've got an audience of your own. What is your current thinking around personal brand, building your personal brand as the core brand and the vehicle to use to have a platform to do the amazing things that you want to do now?
I want to develop a new show that I'm not quite ready to release yet. But you know, I want to, the things I like listening to are, you know, Modern Wisdom, Andrew Huberman, just stuff that I'm your stereotypical like 35-year-old, 36-year-old who suddenly discovers health and wants to be as healthy as possible, and you know, that people take the piss out of. Not me per se, but you know, you have all these memes and stuff on social media of people taking the piss out of people just like me who suddenly now like have gone from,
they're probably in their basement gaming.
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, no, I'm not worried about it. But no, it is quite funny when you get, you know, people who are very, very, very health conscious and want to push themselves as much as possible. But no, I love this idea of people being able to change and achieve their potential. Like, I think that potential is, I think that everyone has a lot of potential. I actually genuinely believe that everyone has access to potential, and kind of unlocking it is a choice, I believe. And like through taking some action and making some changes to your life, consciously making better decisions around who you can be, will have a ripple effect on who you can become. And I like the idea of creating a show around that. You know, how loss, grief, alcoholism, bad behavior can all be fuel to change in a positive way. You know, a lot of people do things differently, right? But like Mike's death was a massively negative thing for our family. So can you turn it into something positive by constantly seeking his approval from the grave, almost? Not that he has a grave, he's still on Mount Everest, but like, do you know what I mean? Like, can he be a force for good, a driver for good in your life? You know, I often think when I'm doing stuff like, would Mike have been proud of me for doing this, and can I do more? And like, you know, there have been times during ultra races where I'm just, well, fucked basically. You know, you're out of food, you're starving, you're knackered, and you've got, you know, I feel like he's kind of on my shoulder there helping me out, and you know, I'll say a little prayer, and it's kind of I find him helpful to me at times, even though he's not with me, you know, so I see it as a positive thing now. Like I like to think he drives me forwards at times instead of, you know, dwelling in a negative headspace of, but his death could have been avoided and who's to blame. And, you know, like, I'm so unlucky for having my brother, you know, for losing my brother in this way, which of course is all relevant stuff. But, you know, at the end of the day, Michael's dead. So if you can use it for positive things,
Totally.
then that's what I choose to do.
You can choose to say it happened to me, or you can choose to say it happened for me.
Exactly.
That is literally your choice.
Yeah.
And beyond that, there's not a
So
lot else.
I quite want to do a new show, like a podcast that's kind of very positive around change and behavior and kind of, you know, trying to make the most of your potential, which you know, I've got the kind of mentality that I'll never think I have achieved my full potential, but I think certainly over the last kind of 6-7 years I've made really strong progress and achieved, you know, the odd thing that I certainly feel is relevant to give me a voice in this space, you know. So I'd like to just explore it more and have, you know, really interesting conversations with other people around what drove them to do certain things, you know. And I think the idea of potential is really interesting because you hear of people all the time just saying, you know, I can't do that. And it drives me mad. I don't understand why anyone thinks they can't do stuff. Like, you know, and I understand we're not all coming from the same starting point or whatever, but ultimately you hear it for even little things like the marathon stuff, you know. There's a girl in our office who just says, you know, like, I can never run a half marathon. You absolutely can run a half marathon. I could have you running a half marathon in a week. No problem. Like, and I know that, right? But she doesn't know that. She's just like, it's not for me. I can't do it. My knees wouldn't be able to hold up. There's no way I could have it. It's like, so I guess I would love to encourage people to just think differently about what they can and can't do.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, it's just, as well as being something that I care about, I think it's a really fun topic, you know, just to explore what's possible.
Yeah. I mean, funny mutual friend, Joshua Patton, who did 76 marathons in 76 days.
Yeah.
To your point, I can't run a half marathon or do anything else either. And he made me do it. I did half a marathon with him and I had no training and I was fucked, but I did it. I could not walk for like...
I saw a video of you doing it.
Oh, yeah, it's terrible. I was having to interview him whilst running. It literally, if you want to see like funny shit, like me, no training, doing a half marathon.
Not even the right kit.
Was,
Yeah, but so hang on. So no training and no previous running experience.
Just some 5Ks on the treadmill because I knew he was going to make me do a 5K.
Yeah,
I knew that was going to happen, but 5K.
A bit of training then.
So you ran a half marathon basically with no plan.
I'd never done one before.
No plan, no, not the correct kit, having never really trained for it.
No,
so from nothing really.
No, totally. Literally, I knew he was going to do 5K, but he literally made me do half a marathon with him that day, and it was bloody filmed.
Well, so,
and I looked awful and dead, but it was good footage.
Yeah, but isn't it amazing?
But it's doable.
But you did it.
100%.
So isn't it amazing?
Yeah,
so
it was unbelievable. And I actually, by the end of it, I was like, you know, if he forced me to, I could have probably ended up doing the marathon. I just slowed him down.
Here he goes.
But
Here we go.
But you get my point.
Let's do it now.
You get my point.
No,
every time you do that extra mile, you were like, I couldn't do that, and you did it, and you're like, well, I suppose if I'm forced to do it, I really genuinely just could carry on.
So my point is, you know, if I were to write you a training plan to get you to do another half marathon in 2 weeks' time, you'd probably really enjoy it because like the training plan wouldn't be aggressive.
Yeah.
It's just like I said when I came out of the desert that good preparation is the antithesis of jeopardy. A lot of people were writing to us. DMing us, saying, this all looks too fun. Like, this doesn't look hard enough. You're making it look too easy. That's a mad compliment, right, to us as a team. Because if we can go out there and run 30 marathons in 30 days with no jeopardy, that is what we are aiming. That is the straight line to the $1 billion business. That is the kind of building blocks to success. Of course, we had some jeopardy, and of course, it didn't go completely as planned. But for it to be near enough perfect just means that we all prepared for every eventuality. We took all risk out of the equation by being overly prepared. You know, like I spent hours and hours, 12 hours in a heat chamber preparing for being trapped out, you know, with no shade in the heat. All eventualities were covered to the point where at no point did we all look at each other and go, fuck, what are we going to do? Because we knew. We had it all covered, right? So it's kind of like, and good preparation is the antithesis of jeopardy. Nobody wants jeopardy when they're doing stuff. Of course, like if you suddenly just decide you're going to go straight from your couch to run a half marathon, it's going to hurt. There's going to be times at 11, 12K, 16K where you're going to go, my God, I'm not used to running this way. And that's going to feel like jeopardy. But if you stick to a plan, much like if you stick to your plan when you build a business and you understand and you have the experience and you put the time and effort in to create an environment where it doesn't feel rough, then you've just done a good job.
I think there's also, you know, preparation and opportunity equals success, right? So you got to put yourself in that space, but you have to have the prep, get the reps in and stuff. But if you can combine those things, you will find success.
Well, we were saying outside, like, you know, if you want to be a Formula One driver, but you don't want to drive a car all day, every day, and you don't want to break your back trying to be the best
then you're
you
a
can possibly
fantasist.
be, then you will not be a Formula One driver.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with success. It's the same thing with marathons. And, you know, like, I've raw dogged a marathon before, whatever you want to call it, where I've come straight from a nightclub, aged 19, and ran my first marathon on no sleep with very little training and just pushed through the pain. And I had paracetamol the whole way through and all kinds of shit that you definitely shouldn't be doing. And I was in bed for 4 or 5 days afterwards because it was the most painful thing ever to run that distance with no training, you know, drunk from the night before. But you can do it. I wouldn't advise doing it. You know, it's much better.
I don't know if everyone could do that.
It's much better to prepare. So that, you know, like this marathon that I've got coming up in 8 weeks' time, I'm going to try and go sub 3. I hope I can do it.
Yeah.
I think I might be able to do it. I honestly don't know if I can do it. If I do it in 3:10, I'm not going to care at all.
Yeah, because you can always do it again. You
Yeah.
have a benchmark at that point.
But like, you know, I know exactly what I need to do it, and I'm going to give myself the best possible chance of succeeding. And, you know, 30K in, it's going to feel rough because I'm running really fast, like the whole way. But there'll be a good 50 minutes to an hour where I have to dig incredibly deep and like fight that urge to give up. And that's the game.
One of the most interesting bits of advice someone ever gave me about building a brand was, you know, you're doing it well if you're bored. If you feel like you're doing the same thing consistently over and over again and it feels a bit boring, you're probably doing an amazing job of building a brand. I wonder, like, with marathon running, with running in general, you know, the criticism is it's boring. How important is boredom to get to success?
Someone came up to me the other day and went like, why do you run so much? Like, are you not bored? And I was like, well, I like running, obviously, you know, like, like, how important is the boredom?
Well, Damien really disagreed with you, didn't he? About boredom in business.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, he did.
I would say the same. Like, I don't know.
Discipline in a way is boredom, right? You know,
Repetitiveness, yeah.
Yeah.
I think if I get bored, I just leave.
Yeah,
That's interesting you say that. It's like I find monotonous behavior quite difficult. That's why I have a few things going on. Like if I was only working at Clean and everything was just like cash flow positive and on track, it is boring. Like to your point, because you're doing a good job. The most fun times we ever had at Clean was when stuff was going pear-shaped.
Yeah.
You know, and you had to fix it. You know, because you wake up, you got to fix a problem. That's good fun. You know, someone bails on the term sheet that they signed, and you got to find, you know, a whopping great big replacement in 2 weeks. It's tough, but it's also very exciting. You know, I think that is a mindset as well, though. I think some people find it exciting, some people find it crippling.
Totally.
You know,
I think it's okay
I found it
as well
exciting.
to be different. Like whenever people around me will always say that whenever my business has hit a point where they're going really, really well, I just get so bored. It's like I like the pain on the way up, and like even
you just get addicted to it, don't you?
yeah, like even the current business, I'm hiring my managing director 100 days in, and like I have a feeling that once they're in, I'll be a bit like, I don't know, you know, there's this thing over here that makes no money that I could work really hard on. And I think it's personality type more than anything that's gonna drive that. But what's the thing I think so cool about this conversation that you two are having is the like finding the potential I think it's like quite a cool thing. So like, there's gonna be so many people listening because we have millions of listeners, obviously. Who
Do you actually?
Yeah, we
number
do.
two business.
Millions of
podcast.
listeners.
It's tough.
Number
Oh,
two
hey, guys.
podcast
Welcome.
in the UK.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, God,
So
I
just a one spot above.
I can
Big
take
Fish.
back everything I've just. No.
So, I suppose like practical advice to a lot of people who will be sitting there thinking like, I haven't reached my potential. I don't know how to get to my potential. And I feel like we talked to Simon a bit about this, which is like, actually some people need a bit of an awakening that they can do a lot more than they previously thought they could. Yep. So like, what are the steps that someone can take? Like a young person or a new entrepreneur or someone wanting to run, like what are the habits to adopt to try and reach that potential?
Well, by the way, I don't have the answers to that. This is exactly what I'd love to explore, right? So that I can be the voice or a voice in this space, you know, to be able to give great advice. I can tell you the things that I find helpful, you know, and that's kind of changing behavior. Like in my case, the drinking obviously had to go. So all of a sudden you cut yourself off from that. You find more time in your day. You know, like for me, I like getting up really early. I like having a freezing cold shower as soon as I get out of bed. I used to, to have it warm and then put it cold. Now I just step into freezing cold water in the morning for a couple of minutes. It really, like the dopamine release is mad. I know I sound like Andrew Huberman or whatever, but it does you feel like blood surging around your head. You wake up like crazy. You know, the dopamine release of cold water immersion is said to be similar to taking cocaine, right? Like apart from it lasts like 3 hours, cocaine is said to last like
3 minutes.
Yeah. And it's basically like you feel high. And then I train every single day pretty much, give or take a day. I lift heavy weights and I run, not every day. I drink quite a lot of caffeine. I have quite a clean diet. I don't know if you've ever read Ultra Processed People.
Yeah, it's very good.
But it's an excellent book. Like I think I was never a reader. I love reading now. I think reading is just like read a fucking Harry Potter book for all I care. Read something. You know, I think if you can replace, they are good. If you can replace screen time with reading and use your phone a bit less and a bit later in the morning, I know that's very difficult for some people. Train your mind and body, so just be out in fresh air if you can be. I realise lots of people work in offices as well, it's not always possible, but if you can, just get out in the fresh air and walk and train. I think a huge piece of advice to people that don't go to the gym or don't train is it's a very transformative experience to begin training, even if you just lift weights. Cardiovascular exercise is said to really help, with anxiety, depression. Something about having a high heart rate, for extended periods of the day, is just incredibly good for your health. I think, just as someone that's become more health conscious, I try and use my body as much as possible. I cycle places, I don't really take the tube or cabs that often. I cycle pretty much everywhere. Took the Elizabeth line here today, of course, because you guys are in Canary Wharf, which may as well be
You spoke about it
foreign
enough
country.
as well.
Yeah. No, but you know what I mean? I think it's all really like lame paraphrasing now, but if you don't use it, you'll lose it. Like I've been very unhealthy before. I've been very overweight. And ultimately, I think to have good mental health, I think it is directly linked to having good physical health. Like maybe not in all cases. This is again just personal experience. Like when I'm fit, healthy, active, I have a much clearer mind. I'm less moody. I'm more present with my kids. I'm a better husband. I make clearer, better decisions. I'm able to manage my time more effectively. But if you were to take me away from the gym and say like, you can't lift weights for 2 weeks, like I would be a different person. Like my mood would alter quite significantly. So I don't know. Listen, this is all very personal. I drink shitloads of coffee. Like I love caffeine. There's nobody.
What are we talking?
I don't know. I'll have maybe like 8 to 10 double espressos in a day.
Wow.
Oh, that's
I'll have 5 or 6. For what it's worth, really great for your long-term cognitive health.
Yeah.
So it's really, really good for you to have more and more coffee.
Told you
You're
guys.
both really into your sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
Sleep is. Do you know?
But by the way, that's genetic. If you're having coffees after 2 p.m. and you're capable of sleeping, so I cut out at 2 p.m. I have
does
loads
it mean you're a
before then.
genius?
No, it doesn't, sadly. But it does mean that your metabolism will do a half-life on your coffee, and so on your caffeine levels, which is a genetic thing.
I was really hoping you were going to say, like, if you're able to have a double espresso after dinner and go straight to bed, that you're some kind of like
You're a
genius legend.
technical moron. You've got an IQ of
Okay.
70, if
Right,
that's
right.
the case. Yeah,
Okay,
so don't
perfect.
publicize it. To
No,
everyone.
I won't be. No, I don't do that.
On this note, I think it is, you said something really poignant, which is human beings are a filter. You've got 2 ears, 1 mouth, all that stuff, right? But on a fundamental basis, if what you choose to listen to, read, your inputs, everything, is about health, about performance, about potential, about your chosen career, whatever it might be, if your majority of your time is spent filling your brain with that stuff, you're going to end up closer to the place you are now than somewhere else, just sitting on your TV watching reality TV as a perfect example. That is not helping fill your body up with stuff that's going to help you thrive over the long term.
Yeah.
So these things are like simple choices, but one of the most empowering things I think you said is as simple as you can pick up a book today or listen to a podcast today and listen to an inspiring conversation like this today, and it can have a profound impact on your life if you're at the right place to listen to it.
I think so, and it's not even like, I would hope that whatever I end up doing isn't preachy, or everyone should do exactly what they feel like doing. It's more, I've lived kind of both sides of the coin, where I've been really hedonistic, deeply unhealthy, and I've also been very, very clean and very, very healthy. I prefer this lifestyle. I surprised myself recently with the 30 marathons. What else can I do? I've got these big aspirations for a massive challenge next year, and I'd love to crack raising £1 million for charity in a single go, and all kinds of stuff. I just think life is more colourful, when you rid yourself of the toxins and the bad behaviour, basically. And like it's I don't know. Not everyone is willing to listen to advice and motivation and stuff. But I don't know. If I would like to have a more targeted listenership, right, and do something that I really care about, which is firstly try and achieve my potential, but also just have casual discussions around how everyone can be a more enhanced version of themselves if they want to, because it's actually, I find it generally interesting. Like I can get really stuck into the science behind stuff. I love it, and I want to do things that matter to me. I find that, there was a time when I was running and I was just thinking, I do 2 comedy podcasts and I'm not that interested in entertaining people
Anymore, maybe.
Yeah, no, I was at once. Like, do I care about being the funny guy? Not really. Like, actually, it's not really what I care about. So it's kind of,
Yeah, but again, anymore, because actually what's interesting about the storyline here is you did, and now you don't, and
but that's my point. So
That's
it's kind
great.
of like, so it's kind of just it's interesting to me to want to be we were offered a job the other day, Vogue and I, that 3 years ago we would have torn their arm off to do, and it just simply doesn't really make sense for us now, so we're just not doing it. It's kind of, I think as you progress through life, you have different opinions at different times where you are growing and evolving constantly, and it's I want the next thing that I do to really reflect where I am with stuff, and for it to be meaningful, so that you can create something that is long lasting and relevant to people, hopefully, that you're proud of. I think being proud is is an interesting thing. Feeling actually proud of yourself is a wonderful feeling. It's something I've never really felt before until these marathons. And that's quite an infectious thing. It's quite an addictive thing, that feeling. What else can I do where I'll feel fulfilled, and full? So yeah, I don't know.
So
It's
what's
a deeper conversation than I thought it would be.
It's certainly not what we scripted.
Right.
But I suppose thinking about that, what's the future for you then? Are we going to see more Spencer Entrepreneur? Are we going to see more, shows, television, more, ultra activity? Like, what does the future hold? Because you are now both. And like, I think that, we're a business show. I would say that you're a great inspiration for entrepreneurs wanting to draw attention to their businesses. But is that the future for you?
I'll always care deeply about CleanCo. I think it's unlikely that I would launch into like another startup at this stage in my life. That's not
tough
to say,
work.
That's not to say that I wouldn't do it again. Like I building CleanCo is one of the greatest experiences of my life, right? But having it shapeshift as much as it did was just it was an incredible learning curve. And obviously, I'm still very much involved in CleanCo. There's unfinished business there. I want to get it to a certain stage. I would like it to be acquired eventually, and I want to do right by my shareholders. But I'm also keen to grow and develop my own life outside of CleanCo. I don't feel that I am CleanCo or CleanCo is me. We are intrinsically linked, of course, because it came from me. So there's that. I want to continue pushing myself physically. I want to try and find where boundaries and barriers lie. I hope I don't sound like a dick when I say this, but I didn't even come close to breaking in the desert. Like, not
whatever.
No, it wasn't a whatever thing. I was deeply thankful that was the case. My body could have failed and it didn't.
You're quite a good inspiration for entrepreneurs, because I think, obviously, for me, last year, it happened at one of your events, which is like, I had been in a business for a long time and had been doing the same thing for a long time and had forgotten that like entrepreneurship in your own life is actually more seasons. You can do something for a long period of time. It can be you, can take all of your time, but then there's nothing wrong with stepping back or quitting. Like there's a lot of negativity around like, reprioritizing your life for yourself when you've started a company. But I think for all entrepreneurs listening, like there are so many entrepreneurs who get stuck in their own business. And we've talked about this so much. Like, I think it's quite cool that you're able to do lots of things and show that that's possible, and, have different seasons of because you've had some really varied past.
Yeah.
From,
It's like everything, right? It's actually really healthy narrative to just demonstrate that there are options. It's not all about just going into the business saying, I'm going to build a unicorn and then killing yourself, getting in the way of doing that anyway, and not even reshaping those dreams. Like, where all this unicorn hunting stuff came from is toxic in itself.
Mad.
It's toxic in itself, because you meet people who built $100 million businesses and they're like ashamed to admit it because it wasn't a unicorn. And it's so true, though.
We'd settle for 100, by the way, if it's out there.
Yeah, but we constantly we interview people like that all the time.
We're literally
and
in rooms of people all the time where they get to multiple 100 million valuation. They're like, such a shame that we didn't get there.
We transfer.
We're like, where?
$500 million. It's like, it's a bit disappointing. It wasn't the 700.
We
and
both
you're like,
sat in the room,
$500
right?
million.
Like, you sit in the room and you invest.
That's unreal, though, isn't it? But there was definitely a stage, and like we were nowhere near that, right? But like there was definitely a stage.
2021.
There was definitely a stage where I was hunting the unicorn so hard that I would have 100% been completely disgusted by a $500 million, had a $500 million offer come in at that time.
For sure, but I get your point.
Obviously we'd take it, but like if I at the time could have fast forwarded 5 years and somebody would have said, you'll get a $500 million offer at 5 years, I would have gone like, stuff it where the sun don't shine, mate. It would have been
going for the billy.
Yeah, we're going for the billy. Yeah, no, but I was literally just that was where I was.
Not uncommon,
there was no stopping me. And then it's like when you realize the thing is just gone, oh shit, like it's changed shape. The only thing you can do is eventually accept it. So the faster you accept it and the faster you pivot and the faster you understand it, the better for your mental health, if anything. Like I can remember feeling like, God, fuck, everyone's going to think I'm a massive failure. And it's like, I don't think anyone thinks that, actually, because like it's, I think if CleanCo like did just go pop and vanished off the face of the earth, there's a lot of people who've invested behind me that would be disappointed. But then I think about how I invest. I only invest money that I'm happy to lose, right? Like, and by the way, that's not the way that lots of people do it, but like, it's a gamble.
Yeah.
You cannot guarantee anything, right? You look at these plans that say, we're going to do this in 10 years' time. They don't have a clue what's going on in 10 years' time, right? Like, nobody does. And it's great to have a really well-educated guess, but that's all it is. So it's kind of, it's just a funny, like, I can remember having some conversations with some shareholders at the time where we dropped our valuation, who had come in at the much higher valuation, and they're getting like really irate with me, and I was just like, what do you want me to tell you? Like, we're still alive. This is what's happening. I think we'll be back there in a few years. Like, do you think that this was done on purpose?
Yeah.
Like
Also,
this doesn't suit me at all.
Also, like, investors who get annoyed with you about the valuation. It's like, look, if it was a complete guarantee that we were going much higher,
I wouldn't
we
take
would have
your
been
money.
valued way more.
And I would fund it.
Exactly. Like,
So
I wouldn't
true.
raise your money.
Well, it's interesting. Last week we had Damien from WeTransfer, and he said it takes 10 years to build a business and 20 years to build a brand. And actually, it's insightful. It's broadly true.
Yeah,
You
it
look
is.
at a lot of the
That is
companies that went
insightful.
faster. You know, a lot of them are dead. We just had the Master Son interview, right? Like, you know, that's like
Very different interview.
very different. But WeWork is a perfect example of building that went too fast and imploded. Like, if you try to play that
Did you
game.
interview that Adam dude?
No, Adam Newman. No. It was about Master Son.
But Adam, if you're listening, come on.
Come on, Adam.
Yeah, I'd like to watch.
Adam /
Yes,
Jesus.
will be here.
Yeah.
I'll come back.
We'll have a third host.
Yeah.
And then we'll do a half marathon.
Yeah, lovely.
Just to close it out.
Actually, I am throwing a half marathon unofficial event on Sunday, this Sunday, the 6th of October. We're running from Battersea to Twickenham. You can do the full half marathon, or you can join with 12K or 5K to go. You can try all of Hoka's new gear. They're our partners, and there'll be free clean cocktails at the end at the Turk's Head in Twickenham. What are you doing on Sunday?
I'm nursing this infected toe, but you have literally no excuse. I was in all of yesterday, so that's my excuse.
There's 466 of us currently.
Are they really?
Yeah.
And who are those people? Are they just followers?
random awesome people that are coming running with us?
Part of your community?
Yeah. So no, like, literally, just I put out a story the other day, just saying we're going to run a half marathon distance from Battersea to Twickenham. Who just click here and sign up. And we've got nearly 500 people coming.
I think to this
We're running
point-
along the river all together as a group
I think to this point, one of the
with no permissions.
one of the most lovely, inspiring parts of this is community, right? Like, running is a great example of community. Climbing is another great example of community. People gravitate towards these little areas. It's so nice. And what you're doing, being like a figurehead for that concept, right, of just running and being able to bring people with you as a community, that in itself is like what so many people building brands are like desperately trying to engineer all the time.
I think a great example. Like we talk about it a lot on this show, but the idea that as an entrepreneur you need to build awareness, community, following, like there's falls off him. You know, he's asked for a run and 500 people are going. You know, most entrepreneurs would like give their left leg to do that, and so it's. I think the lesson is like understand the levers you have to pull here, because if you can do that at the drop of a Instagram post or something, then like the impact on your businesses moving forward is going to be so significant. You can do anything, you know, like you stop doing one business, your personal brand goes beyond that one business to the next thing. So it's more like career, isn't it?
Well, thank you.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Really, really lovely. Thank you very much for joining us. Spencer Matthews, obviously husband to Vogue.
Yes, Vogue's husband. Yeah.